Art for that nice introduction. I will make a couple of corrections. And I want to thank Don Riley and all of the Labor Council from Napa Solano, and I want to thank all of you for being here for this great celebration. And I think we have had a very great morning and talk. I think all of the people that we've heard speak today, yes, we have been in the presence of a lot of greatness this morning. Oh, let's give them all an applause. Everybody who's followed and the one, I'll make a couple of corrections. You were right, Art. The community service organization was started by labor people, actually, but it was in East Los Angeles, and it was Tony Rios, who was with IUE, Gil and I from the Steelworkers Union, J.J. Rodriguez, who was then with the Meat Cutters Union. And these were a group of Latinos that started organizing to end the oppression and the discrimination against Mexican Americans in East Los Angeles, and that's how that started. And I won't tell the story how Alinsky got involved, it's too long and complicated, but Alinsky was involved in hiring this great organizer because they were going to do something about the Mexican problem, right? And so they flew Alinsky out to Chicago, where he had organized what they call the Back of the Yards movement, where they got people and mobilized them to end discrimination in Chicago. And so when the Los Angeles City Council, this was back in the 40s when the Navy was coming into East LA and beating up the Mexican kids because they were wearing their zoot suits, right? And this was what they called the Mexican problem, which is really not Mexicans who had the problem, but anyway. So Linsky told them, well, help them get organized. And of course, City Council didn't want to see them get organized, right? Just like all the labor haters don't want to see us get organized. No. And so he said, no, help them get organized. So they looked around to find somebody who would go into East LA and help this fledgling group of labor leaders. So they heard about this guy named Fred Ross Sr. How many of you know about who Fred Ross Sr. is? Raise your hand if you know. See, he was such a great organizer, nobody knows him. Really. Because his greatness was to organize and develop other people to be great. And so Fred Ross came in, he had worked with, guess where? The Okies, down in the Sunset Labor Camp in Arvin, California. That was his first job after graduating from college at USC. And then after that, he went and he helped work with the Japanese. With the Japanese when they put them into what I call the concentration camps, right? That's what they put our Japanese brothers and sisters. And so this was Fred Ross's history. He went into Orange County, and they had the Mexicans in one school and the whites in the other schools. And so he organized all the people there to integrate those schools and to file lawsuits. So this was Fred Ross Sr.'s history, and they found out about this guy, so Alinsky hired Fred Ross. That's what happened. And Fred Ross went into East LA, and he helped them organize, and came to California, came to San Jose, and therefore he found this guy named Cesar Chavez, and Cesar finally got Cesar to organize. Although first, when Fred Ross first tried to have a meeting with Cesar, Cesar wouldn't meet with him. He didn't want to trust that gringo, right? And it took a lot of work, but it was actually Helen Chavez, Cesar's wife, who said, you've got to meet with this man, he keeps bugging us, he wants to meet with you. And organized Cesar, and of course the rest is history, right? The rest is history. So by the way, Fred Ross Sr. has now been inducted into the California Hall of Fame, okay? So he finally got it, and today we're celebrating Labor Day, of course, and you know, one of the things that I'm glad some of the comments that have been made here, because they inspired me, when we think about, we know we have in our corporate world that we live in, with the corporate media, and so that a lot of people don't really know what labor is. And so when I go out to lecture at different colleges and high schools, I talk about what the labor movement is. And you mentioned it before about what labor is. And my definition of a labor union, it's an organization of workers, right? It's an organization of workers so that they can get representation on the job where they work, but also they can get representation in the state legislatures and in the Congress where the laws are made. Because one little law that they can make up there can wipe out everything that you have in your union contract. We've seen that happen, you know? So this is what, and so workers, when we think about who needs a union, an organization more, the worker or the boss? The boss belongs to what? Chamber of Commerce, Manufacturers Association. If he's a grower, he's a Western Growers, Associated Farmers, a Grape and Tree Fruit League, on and on and on, right? But workers only have one organization, and that is their union. That is the only organization that they have. But we kind of have to remind people, if it were not for organized labor, we wouldn't have unemployment insurance, disability insurance, minimum wage, safety standards that were mentioned earlier, the 8-hour day, right? The 8-hour day, overtime, and of course, public education. So when we talk to people, we have to remind them, these are the things that labor fought and died for, right? The labor martyrs that we have. And so, Tom, the whole idea of labor studies, not just in the vocational classes, let's get it in every single labor, every single school that we have. So that it was the working people that have built this country, right? And the other thing too is we know that if we do not have labor unions, we don't have a middle class. And if we don't have a middle class, we don't have a democracy. We don't have a democracy. And we have corporate control, but kind of like what we have right now, anyway, in the United States of America. And when we think about back in the 60s, what a CEO, Chief Executive Officer of a Fortune 500 company made, his salaries were like 40 to 1. 40 what he made compared to what a worker made. And today, it's almost, they make 500 times more than a worker. 500 times more. This is an obscenity, When you think of their average wages up there, but their average wages are really in millions and millions of dollars. When you see that some of these chief executive officers, that their salaries are $16 million a year. $16 million a year. We know that this is totally, totally wrong. And those people that are against labor, I call them the labor haters, right? Worker haters. You have people like the Koch brothers. Okay, the Koch brothers, they're worth $40 billion. $40 billion. They got their money from coal and they got their money from oil, but a lot of the ways that they got their money, they just kind of disobeyed the laws. Negligence, People have been killed because of their negligence. But they are the ones that have put so many people in Congress that John Garamendi and Mike Thompson have to deal with, we should give them an applause because they have to be there with all those ALEC-funded Republicans, okay? That's like kind of torture. We should give them a big applause for just being there, And these Koch brothers, they fund this group called ALEC. Have you heard of ALEC? Yes. Okay, ALEC is an organization that they have a template. And they go all around the country to all the different state legislatures and they introduce all of these anti-labor bills, anti-women's reproductive rights bills, anti-immigrant bills, and they've been very, very successful. Well, we had a rally against ALEC in San Diego a couple of months ago, maybe about a month and a half ago, and there were 2,000 labor people there. They were protesting right there where ALEC was having their convention to let people know who they are. And of course, ALEC is funded by, guess who? Corporations, right? Corporations. And so these are the people that we're up against. And when they talk about small government, you know what that means? We want to get your tax dollars and outsource it to our friends, right? Yep. That's what they mean by small government. They just want to be able to make their friends rich with our tax dollar money. And of course, that's part of what the charter school movement is about. And I know they tried to defeat Tom and they didn't make it, huh, Tom? Yeah. All right. They were very hard. So, we heard about Proposition 30 and how successful that was. We all worked very hard on that one there. And our foundation, the Dolores Huerta Foundation, we're part of a group called California Calls. This is a statewide organization. The California Teachers Association is a very much big part of that. SEIU is, and we hope other labor unions can also join in. And this is all the way from San Diego to the Bay Area here and on the coast and to the Central Valley. And what we do is we do canvassing and phone banking 3 times a year. And we did that work on Proposition 30, we did it on Proposition 47, and we actually, go door to door and tell people about the issues that are affecting them. And we have found, like even in our area there in the Central Valley, we have now 20,000 voters that are identifying with us and the work that we do on these liberal issues that we need, right? Well, there's another one that's going to be coming up that I want to tell you about. It's commercial property tax fairness, okay? This is going to be on the ballot in 2016. And basically what this is, remember Proposition 13? Anybody here? You remember that? When they dropped the taxes on property taxes? Well, what's been happening is that homeowners, your taxes have been going up and up and up. But commercial property taxes have stayed the same. And there's all kinds of loopholes, like when they sell property, these commercial properties, that they don't have to pay taxes on them. Anyway, so you have places like Disneyland in Anaheim that are not paying their fair share of taxes. You have corporations like Chevron that are not paying their fair share of taxes, okay? So if we can pass this commercial fair property tax, okay, fairness, then we will bring in an additional $9 billion into the state. $9 billion, okay? So if we can do that, then we will have more money for education, we will have more money for the disabled, more money for workers programs, and so it's something that we have to try to get behind. And I think that we can actually do that, but we know it's going to take a lot of work to make it happen, okay? Now, we heard some work about the Trans-Pacific thing that they just had, the TPP. And the reason I want to mention that is because when people talk about immigration reform, well, remember when they passed NAFTA? The only people in the United States that were kind of knew what was going on with NAFTA was the labor movement. Because the rest of the country was kind of up to lunch, we didn't know about it very much. And you know who else knew about that? The indigenous people in Oaxaca, Mexico, and in Chiapas. They had huge protests. The day that NAFTA was passed here in the United States, there were big protests in Mexico against NAFTA because they knew what was going to happen to them. So, immigration is pretty much stable until NAFTA happened, because what happened with NAFTA is American companies went into Mexico, as you know, kind of took over a lot of the economy over there, and the people over there were pretty much put out of work in Mexico. No jobs for them. Okay, so when we talk about this immigration of people coming to the United States, a lot of it has to do with NAFTA. It didn't stop. Now, people say, how can we solve immigration reform? Well, one of the ways, of course, we can do it is that we can stop colonizing and taking over the economy of these other countries. Remember after World War II, some of us here? After World War II, with Japan and Germany, those countries were defeated. So what did we do? We had the Marshall Plan. The United States came in, went into Japan and to Germany, and we helped those corporations get strong. So we talk about Sony, Mitsubishi, Toyota. Those corporations were built with American US dollars, right? Volkswagen in Germany. They became strong with our tax dollars. And then you know what we said? You don't have to pay us back. Just keep the money. Just keep the money. But see, we don't do that with Central America and Mexico. American corporations go in there, we take it over. It's economic colonization. So the profits come back to where? The United States of America. They don't stay in those countries. In those countries, the economies are depressed. Back in the 40s, the Mexican peso was 7 pesos to $1. Now it's over 100 to $1, what the peso is worth. So as long as we continue to have that kind of mentality that the resources of the world belong to us, right? Then we're always going to have wars, we're not going to have peace, and we're not going to help other countries. And when some of those countries over there, they don't agree with our economic policies, then we make them our enemies. Hugo Chavez, okay? Why don't we like Hugo Chavez? Because he said, the oil of Venezuela belongs to the people of Venezuela. No, that was it. Evo Morales from Bolivia. He says the natural gas of Bolivia belongs to the people of Bolivia. It doesn't belong to the United States. Do you remember when we were on those peace marches? I remember there was a big sign that said, how did our oil get under their sand? So, we have to kind of change that mentality that all of the resources of the world belong to us. And instead instead use our science, use our technology to go in and help develop the economies of other countries so that they can have their own economies, right? Because otherwise, we have to think in terms of, when we think of global warming and we think of climate change and things of this nature, we have to think that we, the United States, I think, Japan and Germany, we consume over 60% of the world's resources. And this is not right. We have to keep thinking, okay, we have to live simply so that others can simply live, right? We have to live simply so that others can simply live, because these are things that are upon us. If we don't take care of our planet, none of us are going to be here. None of us are going to be here. And so these are things that we really have to start thinking about in terms of our conscience. And yes, and none of this is really going to make any difference unless we can elect the kind of political leadership that we need. We have had some great examples up here today, of people that we can elect. But we know so many of our people are still not doing it. And so civics education, Tom, has also got to become part of our whole school systems. As I go around and I speak to different people, and I'll say to them, how many of you know who your assemblyman is? 5 people, raise their hand. How many of you know who your state senator is? Another 5 people raise their hand. The only person that people really know is when you say, do you know who your president is, right? Yeah, of course, everybody raises their hand because they all know Barack Obama. But, we are sorely in need of making sure that we get our people elected to office. And it's not going to happen until we get out there and educate each of our members of our labor unions. And I think each of our members of our labor unions have got to be out, and they've got to go out and educate their communities also, their families. Because I know that in speaking to some of my friends from labor, and they'll tell me this, they'll say, some of my own members don't know why they're here. They don't understand the history of the labor movement. They're just here because they have a job and they've got to pay their dues. They have a job and they've got to pay their dues. So I think we've got to embark on a huge, huge education mission so that we can tell people what labor is, what working people do, and why we need to be, and I'm going to say the word, need to be empowered, okay? Labor people have got to be empowered. And I'm going to quote Bobby Kennedy Jr. on that one. Bobby Kennedy Jr. said, when you have corporations that have control of a government, you have fascism. Yes. When you have working people who are in charge of government, you have socialism. I'm going to use the S word. Socialism. And the reason I'm saying that is that, and we think of socialism as, in the United States, it's such a bad word, okay? But then when you think of who are these socialist countries? Scandinavian countries, right? Norway. Norway, a few years ago, it came out in the press that they had a $400 billion surplus in their government. $400 billion surplus. They were worried that their people were not going to want to work anymore. Forget how to work, okay? And where did they get all that money from? Their oil, because they own their oil, See, those are things we don't even think about. Should the resources of our country belong to the people, right? And we just finally opened up relations with Cuba. Finally. So what does Cuba have that we don't have? This is a little teeny country, has an economic boycott. When you go to Cuba, I'm sure some of you have been to Cuba, toilet paper is rare in Cuba. All paper products are rare. But what do they have that we don't have? Free education. Free education. You can become a doctor in Cuba, right? Free. But you can become a doctor, you can become a professor, free medical care, free education. This little teeny country has that we don't have in the United States. And there is no reason, and I know this is probably a little way off for us, there is no reason why the richest country in the world should not provide a free education for every single person in this country. So these are the tasks that are ahead of us, but we know that number one task in order to accomplish all of this is that we've got to, as has been said many times here today, we've got to be organized. We've got to continue organizing. In my organization, the Dolores Huerta Foundation, we train organizers a la Fred Ross method, okay? The way Fred talks, that's and myself, how to organize the union. We hire organizers, we train them, we send them into communities, and then through house meeting campaigns, We bring them all together. We tell them, you know what? You have rights, but you have responsibilities, right? You have responsibilities, and if you do not improve your situation in your community, nobody is going to do it for you. We have to do it for ourselves. And people get that message and they accept it, and then they start going out there and they volunteer to do the big improvements. And I'll just mention a few of them, but we've gotten street lights and sidewalks and gutters, and we've gotten homes hooked up to sewers before they had septic tanks. We've gotten neighborhood parks, we've gotten swimming pools. One of our committees had a gymnasium built at their middle school. They didn't have a gymnasium, and on and on. But the greatest thing is that 11 of them have gotten themselves elected to office, okay? They've taken over city councils, school boards, water boards, and we've got many of them now on different areas, recreation boards also. And once they know how to do the work, we're a 501c3, we're a nonprofit, but they go out there and they know how to register the voters and get them out to vote. And it's no longer about voter registration. It's about voter education, okay? Voter education. We shouldn't register anybody unless we also tell that person why it's important for them to vote. In one of our areas out there in the Central Valley, they registered, all these groups come in, they register people to vote. They registered 19,000 voters. Guess how many of them voted? 4,000 out of 19. All that money that went into that. So we have to do a lot more work in terms of making sure that the people that we go out there and we register, that they know why they're registering to vote. We have to make sure we get the information to them. Who is the best labor candidate, right? We've got to get people that are labor committed. You know, we don't want Republican light. Okay? We don't want Republican light. We want Democrats that are labor committed, and if they're not committed to labor, you know what? They should not be elected. You know, so we've got to make sure we get that. And just to close, you know, I talked about a little bit about immigration, and you know, we all have an immigrant story. You know, many of us, we know our people came from different parts of the world to the United States of America, but there's an immigration story that's even older than that. And this immigration story starts with us as human beings, right? Because, you know, we are only one human race. Who knows the scientific name of our human race? Somebody shout it out. Homo sapiens. Yeah, we have a lot of teachers in the room. Homo sapiens, right? So that means we only have one human race. We have a lot of different cultures, nationalities, ethnic groups, but only one human race. And so our immigration story as our human race, Homo sapiens, began where? Africa. Africa. Yeah, it began in Africa. And you know, our early African ancestors, they traveled across the globe, and they went to Asia, got lighter in skin, down to the Bering Strait to the Americas. And one of our tribes got lost, and they went up north where it's very, very cold. They totally lost their color. Now they have to go to the tanning salon or to the beach to get their color back, right? And what does this mean? That means that we are all Africans. Yeah, we are all Africans. And so we can say to the Ku Klux Klan and to those people in the Tea Party, the White Citizens Council, and yes, you too, Donald Trump. We can say we are all Africans, right? And we can say to them, get over it, you're Africans too. So, and I think we need to remember that, especially now because we do see that the racism in our society is a cancer. And that the politicians, those people, not the guys here, but you know, those people up there, the haters, the labor haters, and the gender haters, you know, people who are anti-gay, anti-lesbian, etc. And you know, these people, they use this racism to keep us divided. And we know that we have seen, all of us have seen on television, the slaying and the constant lynching, I'm going to call it lynching by state, when we have police that kill Latinos, especially African Americans, at greater numbers. This young kid that was killed, was a 12-year-old kid, I think was up there in Santa Rosa in that area, because he was carrying a plastic gun. They didn't ask him, just shot him down. And this has got to stop. And we've got to stop this whole, the school to prison pipeline. This is what I know Tom is working on. We're all working on together. We have just sued our current high school district for the huge suspensions of African American kids and Latino kids, 600 to 500% higher than white kids, you know. This is just institutionalized racism, and we've got to stop it. We've got to dismantle it. Take it apart, take it apart. There is no reason why we should have more people in prison in the United States of America, you know, where populations are millions, than India or China, who have billions of people, and we have more people in prison than they do. And it's coming straight from school to the prison pipeline, and we've got to stop it, we've got to dismantle it. And more people here in the state of California than any other state in the United States of America. And so these are all things that we have to work on. And again, we talk about our tax dollars. What is it? And I love to quote Jesse Jackson on this one. He said it costs more money to send somebody to jail than it does to Yale. You know, it's what, $60,000 to get somebody in prison, maybe $40,000 to get somebody an education. So these are all topics that we have to work on. But I know that all of us working together, continuing on organizing, that we are going to be able to make it happen. But it starts with us first. It starts with the working people. The majority of the people in the United States are the working people. And of course, organized, you know, the way we have to be, then this is the way that we make it happen. And by getting out there and making sure that we get everybody to vote for good people that can represent us. So, I'm going to say a couple of words. I want you to, a couple of chants. One of them, oh, I should mention one thing too. My organization, by the way, the Dolores Huerta Foundation, we're on the web, doloreshuerta.org. If you'd like to contribute to us. I, by the way, do not take any money from my foundation. I was, some of you will remember, beaten up by the police in San Francisco back in 1988. And so because of that, the city of San Francisco had to give me $2,000 until I died. So I am trying to live a very long time. And so all of, any contributions that we give directly to, we go directly to hire more organizers. Right now, our staff is up to 20, okay? Up to 20, and we're like in 7 different communities, and we educate people about the labor movement, educate them about why they have to be involved, and how they can get a sense of their own power to make sure that they can improve their own communities and make it a better world for all of us. So it's doloreshuerta.org. It's very simple. So anyway, I'm going to ask you to join me in a couple of chants. Okay, the first one is a chant from South Africa. It's a Zulu chant, and the word is Wozani. And what does that mean? It means we, the people, we, the working people, are coming together to fight for justice. We, the working people, are coming together to fight for justice. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and I'll shout very loud, Wozani, okay? We are coming together to fight for justice. So let's go. 1, 2, 3. Wozani! Let's do that one more time and make it even louder. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. Wozani! Now, let's do a couple of vivas, all right? A viva for the working people. Okay, so I'm going to say, can I say this in Spanish? It just sounds sexier, okay? I'm going to say, viva los trabajadores, okay? Trabajadores are working people, okay? So I'm going to say, viva los trabajadores, and everybody shout a big old viva, okay? Let's go. Viva los trabajadores! Viva! Viva our labor unions! Viva! Viva Cesar Chavez! Viva! Okay. Viva Dolores Huerta! Oh, thank you, Susan. Victor, come here, Susan. Yeah. Mr. Riley mentioned in his opening speech that we can't do this by ourselves, that we have to reach out to others, right? And this is really ironic because here is Susan Sajan, who was a young woman working for $10, because $10 was $5 a week. $5 a week in the farm work as well, in New York City and Boston. And so she was one of those people out there that said, don't eat grapes, don't eat lettuce, don't drink apple wine. And guess who was one of the recipients of that? Hector Olvera, a farm worker here from Napa Valley, from the Christian Brothers. And in terms of leadership development, Susan is now working for the California Labor Federation. Hector is working for a group called Latinos Unidos in the Napa Valley. We're doing a lot of work there for the Latino community. And he wants everybody to know here, especially the supervisors, they need affordable housing. So all of us together now, let's do that. Si se puede. And thank you very much for all of the work that you did to bring the statue over here. That is such a compliment, and really, I am so humbled and so honored. I thank you very much for bringing the statue here. So let's do it all together. Can we go out there? Can we do the work that we have to do? Can we reach out and organize, get other people involved? Because we need to have a just society, and we are the ones who are going to make it happen. So let's all put our hands together, and we're going to say, yes, we can, but in Spanish. Si se puede. Let's go.
What do you say? Let's give Dolores a very round of applause.